so you're on now. Take it away when you're ready.
So this whole story starts actually 3 days ago. I flew to Chicago on the 1st of December for a trip with my family.
Okay.
With just see my sisters. And about 2 days ago, I was like, oh, let me make sure that I have my passport, everything that I need to get, on the flight. And I couldn't find my passport. I didn't take it out all week, but I could not find my passport.
Okay.
So I go to the airport yesterday morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, yo, what can you do to help me? Like, I need to get home.
Wait, you went to the airport without a passport?
Well, without a passport, because I was like, in the States.
Okay.
In Chicago.
Right.
Because I was like, I need to get home. Like,
home
and I'm Canadian.
Canada.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm Canadian. You'd think that they would just let me go home. No.
That
They needed a passport to fly, so called the embassy. And they're like, well, we can get you a travel document, like an emergency travel document, but it only works one way, like from the States to Canada, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I fly from Chicago to Montreal. Now. Yeah. But then he's like, okay, but I can't get you an appointment at the embassy until Friday. Mind you, I just paid $225 to get the COVID test that you need to get from the States back into Canada. The one to get to the States from Canada, $40. Even $40, I was like, holy, what is this?
Know, right?
Like, way to make money off COVID.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, like off nothing. Some swabs up my nose, some uncomfortability for like 30 seconds. So yeah, I paid $225 and it only lasts 72 hours. So if I would have waited until Friday just to apply for the emergency thing, which I would have had to pay for it all over again, like it was a whole new passport that I only got to use once.
Right.
Or the embassy guy, because I cried on the phone with the embassy guy for like 30 minutes. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm going to lose my job. I'm stuck here, right? I don't have the money for this. And so he's like, okay, well, you can just trot across, like, the border. He's like, go to Detroit, take a train to Detroit, and then get a cab or whatever over the border. I'm like, okay.
Wait, how does this help anything?
Because you don't need a passport to drive over the border.
That's not true.
No, it is.
It hasn't been true in, like, over 10 years, I can tell you that.
Well, it worked for me just now. I drove, so I just got out of the border.
What did you show him?
My ID, my driver's license. So that worked. That was enough to say that I'm a Canadian citizen, right?
I'm gonna put something in here that shows that hasn't been true for well over a decade, but
go for
somehow
it,
you fucking... Okay.
It happened. The embassy told me, he's like, you can take like a train or a bus over the border and you don't need a passport, but you cannot fly.
What about the test? Like,
the test I did have, though. That's the thing. That's why I had to get it now.
Right.
Because if I waited until Friday, then the test had been null and void.
Right.
So I had to get over the border. Like, it was like I had to do it right then.
Okay.
Right? So then I get to the border and the guy starts getting mad at the cab driver or the Uber driver because he didn't have the credentials. He didn't have the can arrive or whatever what they have to fill out. He didn't have his vaccination or whatever. Like, he didn't have really anything. But I was like, yo, he's just dropping me off at the one side of the border and then I'm gonna catch another Uber from
and
there.
I also don't have a passport. Interesting.
But he didn't have a passport either. He just had his license. But he got in trouble because he didn't have the enhanced license that says, like, your date of birth or whatever, like, or something like that.
Wait, are you telling me there's an enhanced license with a date of birth? So, like, a normal license doesn't have your date of birth?
I guess not.
Wait,
Mine worked, though, so obviously the Canadian license is a little bit more enhanced compared to the American license.
Being that it has a birth date on it?
And other shit. I don't know.
Americans in the comment section, please confirm this.
I don't know. It just wasn't an enhanced license.
All right.
So, whatever, they're giving him trouble. And then they search the car, which they had to, right? But then the cops look at me and they're like, so, have you been in trouble in Alberta lately? And I was like...
Have you been in trouble in Alberta lately?
But I was like, no. Like, and he's like, okay, because... there's a warrant out for your arrest, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but a lot of times it's like
someone else
unpaid tickets or something. And I'm like, okay, but I literally on August just got a whole brand new ID, and I had to pay all my tickets for that to happen. So,
all my tickets. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm like, I did. I paid like $2,000 in these tickets because I had a hell of a bunch of tickets. But I paid them all off and I got a new card, so I'm like, how is it possible for me to have a warrant? So then his buddy like gets out the thing and he's like, okay, this is your birth date. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, so I'm about to detain you. And I was like,
detain you.
what? I was like,
So
what do you mean? Like, I can't go home? I was like, my flight's at 6
But this is
o'clock.
after all the passport shit.
After all the passport shit,
hilarious.
you know? So, like, finally I'm like, yay, I'm home free. Like, they're just gonna search a car and let us go. No, he's like, I'm gonna detain you. And I'm like, I'm about to cry. I'm like, listen, I'm a good girl. I don't get into trouble. Like,
Okay, you're not a good. If you have thousands of dollars in tickets that you have to pay off, the good girl argument doesn't hold up. But
I speed.
I'm not gonna tell you how much I just got caught for on the same road, but
speeding?
yeah.
See, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it happens, but I haven't
Definitely
lost
happens.
my license, you know, whatever. And so then his buddy was like, hey, finish reading it before you, like, start reading her rights. And he looks at the second page and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I don't even have to tell you your rights. He's like, you're good. And I was like, oh my God, right? So I say goodbye to the Uber driver.
Wait, how did he say you're good? Like, just like...
Because it was... Alberta wasn't about to, like, detain me and come and get me and take me to jail for, like, whatever I did because I have no criminal charges.
But why did the first guy think that you're in?
Well, the first thing he read was that, yeah, she's got, like, unpaid tickets, da-da-da, but on the second page it was, like, it wasn't to the point where they were about to come get me.
I see.
You know what I
So it's
mean?
like, if you see this girl,
Yeah,
give her a shakedown.
Like, we're coming to get her and she's flying back
good
to
girl,
Alberta
a
to
good
go to
cop,
the
bad
time.
cop routine.
Pretty much, yeah. So then he drives Uber drives away. Everything's good. They're like, you can go. And then I like go do like a pat thing, and my phone is still in the Uber driver's car.
God bless. Okay.
But he had driven away, so I'm like,
To the other country.
Yes. Yeah. So I say to the cops, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you guys, like, my phone's in his car. And he's like, you can't call your phone. I'm like, no, because I'm not back in Canada yet. Like, it won't matter, like, because my service is off. Right.
So the Uber dropped you off at the border.
At the border on the Canadian side. Like, we passed through the toll on the American side.
And then he just left.
And then he just turned around at the Canadian side and went back. So that, like, you know.
Right.
But then, yeah, my phone is in his car. So then they had to call the other border and hope to God that he hadn't made it past the gates yet, which he didn't. So then they had to drive me back my phone.
They get like the border patrol when it got your phone for you. That's so sick. Oh my God.
I was just sitting there so embarrassed, you know, like, but they were like, things are getting better, right? They're like trying to cheer me up. They're like, it's actually kind of a good thing that we don't have to be like so harsh and like mean and, you know, all the time. And I was like, dude, you thought you were about to arrest me. So.
Yeah, well, things definitely like got bad. You know how they said that escalated quickly? That de-escalated quickly, right? De-escalated
quickly, but it escalated quickly too, because I was like, what do you mean?
You showed up
arrested?
You showed up with two people, neither of which have passports or documentation of any sort. I mean, one of them has a warrant out for her arrest, possibly. Yes. And then you end up, they drive your phone back. Like, yeah,
they drove my phone back to
mucho
me.
Bueno, right?
Yeah, like things turned around, but still, I'm like, oh, on some shit. Like, what is that? What is that? What is my luck?
What is your luck?
I just wanted to go home. Like, please, somebody take me home. But yeah, so that was my crazy day.
You said 3 days, though.
Okay, but the 3 days was like me first losing. Okay, and then also yesterday when I realized that I couldn't get on the plane, which was like a really traumatic day. I also forgot about all the things that just happened with this lady I just met in Detroit.
Do you want to talk about that too?
Yeah, we can totally talk about that too. I won't say her name or anything just in case she ends up flouncing upon it. But I got off the plane, or the train, in Detroit.
Right.
And I had no idea where I was going. I was just going to go to a Greyhound and then hopefully take a Greyhound to the border. I don't really know. I was trying to figure it out still. Right. And as I'm asking one of the guys who works at the Amtrak, like the train station, how to get to the Greyhound, this lady's like, oh, I'm going there. Like, my house is right there. Like, I'll totally show you around and like, show you, like, get you there. And I was like, sweet. Like, that's so awesome. I'm calling her an earth angel. I'm like, you're the best. Like, you're making my life. She took me to this really cool, printing press from the White Stripes and like their store in Detroit. It was really sick. Got to see a bunch of albums and like records from like Patsy Cline and Roy Orbison that I really love, and it was cool. We were having a good day.
I feel like there's a butt coming.
Oh, there's a butt coming really hard. So we go back to her place so that I can figure out like how I'm gonna get across the border, and you know, like just a cheap way too, because I found a town car that would have been fine, and you know, they even said like, I'll take you all the way to the Windsor Airport, but it was like $159. And I was like, okay, like let me not spend all that money. But my Wi-Fi wasn't working and her Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I kept having to use her hotspot. But I think she popped like a couple Xannies. like Xanax bars.
Right.
And she started to just kind of like nod off a little bit, and she's like, "Hey girl, like I need to take a half an hour nap." And she introduced me to her neighbor, totally nice guy. And she was like, "You go over to his place for like half an hour and I'm gonna take a nap and then we'll like finish this all off." And I'm like, "Okay."
What are you finishing off? I'm just what is
like to try and figure out, because okay, so also I had cash and I helped her buy weed because she didn't have the money on her. Like she didn't have the money on her.
Okay.
And in return, she was gonna pay for my Uber to the border, which was like only the same amount. It was like $30.
Like through a card, I assume.
Yeah,
That's
through a
why
card,
she
because
can't buy weed with it.
with the card, she had to have the cash. So she was like, "Just let me sleep. We'll deal with it." And then we're sitting, and her neighbor lives, like, they share a wall, right? Really close neighbor. And all of a sudden, we hear the fire alarm go off, and we like run out into the hallway, and she's got her like door open, and there's smoke everywhere, and she had these two like cardboard boxes that were like filled with shit, and that she was kind of using to put her ashtrays on and stuff. And both these cardboard boxes were like on fire. So by the time that me and him even got there and we're dumping water and shit like that, she's like roasted, and the whole house is almost roasted. Like the whole house is almost burning up in flames, and we're all dumping water.
Wait, this lady you met yesterday got roasted in her house fire.
Today.
And
she was, and then she was like, "Oh, like my house almost burned down. I need to come to your place." And Buddy was like, "No."
Wait, no, well, like she didn't die?
No, she was fine. Like we got the fire out, but it was a fire, and like her poor cat's in there, and like it's smoky. Like I almost couldn't breathe.
Okay.
And I'm just looking at this chick like, wow, like you're actually, like this is really actually happening, you know?
Yeah.
It was pretty intense.
Sounds pretty intense.
It was very intense. It was very intense. So then anyways, caught my Uber out of there. And thank God I gave myself so much time to
She still paid for your Uber after her house just burned down?
Nope, she didn't.
Then how'd you...
Or did I get the weed? So she just got the weed and the Uber, and I gave up because by the time that we got the fire out and stuff, I was knocking. And
wait, no, but how did you get to the other place? Like...
To his place?
Like you said, like if she didn't pay for the Uber, how did you leave?
Oh, I paid for the Uber myself.
Why didn't you do that before?
Well, because I gave her money for weed. I wanted the money back, right?
I see. Okay.
Do you think we can go to that Tim Hortons over there? I'm so sorry. This is closed, so
sure,
I'm gonna need something warm to sit while I eat it.
Fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, so there was that, and then yeah, it was just a bit of a shit show, like the whole time.
Sounds like a bit of a shit show.
And I just left her. Like, I thank God when the house, because she also, like, I was doing laundry. Like, I was just chilling, right? I, like, showered, and then she was like, "I'm gonna go to bed." And I had wet laundry in her washing machine, and then she almost set her house on fire, so I grabbed all my shit.
How long were you at this person's house?
It was only, like, an hour and a half, 2 hours, but
and
I wasn't
laundry
gonna leave.
in this time?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't gonna leave until like 3:00 in the morning. That was kind of the plan, because she was gonna pay for the Uber, and we had it all like planned out. But then she like passed out on me. So
hold on, where am I going right? I didn't see any.
There's Tim Hortons right there.
I see. Okay. So
I'll buy you something.
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
But yeah, so that was interesting.